Hello, and welcome to today's Stova at ASU webinar, Event Builder Part 3, part of a series that is a deep dive into the registration module of Stova. I'm your host and trainer today, Steve McGillivray. I work in the Office of University Events and Protocol here at ASU. And we've been building out an event over the last 2 weeks, and we will continue today focusing on some of the features for agenda and also for how to take the money if you are charging fees at your event. So, as usual, we start with a little housekeeping that, as you may have heard when you came in, this session is being recorded, and a link to the session will be shared with you via email later in the week. As we go through the slides and the web pages and even the system itself, you may see some other company names besides Stova. You may see Aventry, you may see eTouches. Just letting you know that it's all the same platform we've used from the beginning, just the name has changed as the company has had mergers and acquisitions and decided to give it a refresh. Also, as we go through the presentation today, feel free to post a question in the chat about the section we are reviewing, or just unmute your microphone and ask your question. There will also be time at the end of the presentation for questions. I know we've scheduled this for 90 minutes. I don't think we're going to take the entire 90, so I think there will be plenty of time at the end for any questions you may have. Okay? So, moving ahead, here is today's agenda on agenda and options. So if you're doing an event where you have multiple sessions, how do you program them? If you're using like a conference or a convention where you have speakers connected to those sessions, how do you program them? You have locations. You want to be able to tell your attendees where these different rooms are. How do you do that? And also the option of selling merchandise or other options that sort of you can't ask them in the attendee info question. They're not a session question. How do you ask them? That might be done on the options of merchandise tab of agenda and options. Then we'll switch over to fees and payments. We'll show you how to set up the types of payment methods you can accept, also how to set those fees for different parts of the system, and we'll show you a couple different ways to apply discounts and, as usual, other fun stuff as we go through the process. All right, so this is the use case we've been building out. A multi-day, multi-session conference. We're to a worldwide audience, and we're accepting registrations from attendees, exhibitors, sponsors, and staff. What's important today, of course, is the multi-day, multi-session portion of this build-out, and also how can we apply fees based on things like categories or the sessions they are choosing, and how do we offer discounts based on the time that the price for something changes. Or we just want a discount that we control and offer to various groups of people, constituents, or certain categories, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to be covering today. And as usual, we start here on the Stova support page where I can click on the login button, and it always takes me to the Stova login page where I enter my ASU Right ID for my department account. And enter the registration module right off the bat. I'm in the cloud module, don't see anything, or cloud level, I should say. I need to click on my team folder to find my event. And then to get into the event, I could click on the name. That will take me right to the overview page. I can save myself that step by right-clicking on the name, and going to registration and going to registration settings. That's where all the fun is happening. So as I said, we've already in part one set up all the event information and basic details on the location of this event and the overall start and end dates. We've set up categories that we're using throughout the event, general admission for our audience and our exhibitors, staff, and sponsors here as well. And we'll be taking advantage of these, or can be taking advantage of these when we set up our sessions. We asked our questions. We're going to go to agenda and sessions. So the top of the page is where we begin to program our session information. Below the agenda page is Well, you're not going to see anything until we start adding some sessions. So let's do that. And the easiest way is to click Add Session. It defaults to a session no input. Now this can be used simply for a header. So you want to divide sections up with something graphical. That's what you can use single session no input for. But the other options for sessions include single session checkbox. So you just want to know, are you coming to this one session? Yes, no. If you are, check the box. The other option is to do multi-session radio buttons. So this is like a breakout session where you have a time slot and maybe 3 or 4, however many different events going on at the same time, sessions going on at the same time, and people have to pick one within a time slot. So those are your options. I'm going to stick with session heading, and date of my event is going to be May 13th is the first day, and it starts at, well, this event is for registration and check-in. I'll start this at 8:30 a.m. and it ends at 9:30 a.m. I generally don't worry about the position. It's a choice you can make in the displays. I'm going to keep it to the default. Session heading is, again, more of a graphical thing. If you want something over this session, like a master header or something, you can check this box and use this HTML field to put that heading above this particular class. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go straight to session name and type in what this is about. And again, we're doing a deep dive, so I'll give you a brief tour of some of these fields and what they do, and we will be using some of them as we go out through the demonstration. Session types is a tool you can use to restrict sessions that people can register. You can pick a type here, and so if I wanted to limit, say, to session 1, and I had a multiple sessions I create that are labeled as session type session 1, I can use a restrictor later on to say I'm only letting people pick one session 1 throughout the entire event. So that's its purpose. You don't need to use it. Anything that's required would have the little red asterisk next to it. If you want to do a little formatting of your session name, you can use bold or italics here. The session reference field is just an internal reference for you if you need to put some sort of code number in here for reporting purposes. Name for badge. A lot of these sessions you can add to your Stova badge, and perhaps you just want to put it there so it's easy to see that that person is supposed to be in that particular session, or you're going to put a person's whole session schedule on a lanyard for that person. That's what this is for, so that when you go to the badging section, you can find this session. Session description allows you to type what is this session about, and by default, the session will display on the registration with a little more info link to click, and that opens up a pop-up box with this field information. It is an HTML field, as we can say here, so you can even do a little formatting with that description if you like. If you want to keep track of certification credits, if you're offering sessions that actually is 4 credits, it's a way for you to keep track in your session. Tracks are a way of organizing these sessions for display in the website builder and other parts of the system. These are programmed on the account level end. So how would you use tracks? Well, suppose that you were doing a conference where you want to show people of a certain topic. These are sessions of that certain topic. So here's the graphic design track, or here's the advanced level track, things like that. You would select it over on the left and then add it to the selected tracks here, and there are different parts of the system where it would display. Okay, not sure what PDF font color is about, or key speaker, orientation group, program start date, never used them. Now here is where you can actually format that little pop-up I was talking about with more info. Let me save this so I've got something to show you, because right now there'd be nothing. Go back to it. And it always pops up on my other monitor. So here's the pop-up, and again, it would normally pop up on the same screen you're working on. This is what's currently being displayed, a session title and the word description. So that means there's probably some merge codes here that I can't see. If I close that, I can go to the button next to it, Edit Session Info, and there are those merge codes, pulling the session name and pulling the session description field that we just talked about a little earlier, and also a back button for closing this. And I can edit this however I like. If you are going to edit this and use session descriptions, it's a good idea to do this on your first one so that all the information can be cloned from this event and you've saved it. Otherwise, you have to go through every session to do this formatting over and over. So whichever way it's easier for you to do. Okay, I'm just going to leave this by the defaults. If I was to make any changes here, I would just hit save, update, and exit. And then I'd be able to see that in the preview here. Content tags is a fairly new feature. It's similar to tracks, and we're going to cover that in a little bit. I don't have any content tags currently, but again, it's a way for you to organize your sessions for display to your attendees, a way for them to filter and sort. Okay. Speaker details. We can add the speakers here. So again, it can display under more info or even on the agenda displayed during the registration site. We're going to get into speakers in a minute. Visibility settings. So this is how we control which sessions can be seen by which parties. And we can do that by, usually don't worry about the website e-mobile, that's an older feature. But perhaps you want to control how people see it based on categories. Remember, I have general admission exhibitors. I probably don't need anyone but a general admission seeing these sessions. I'm not going to worry about the exhibitors or sponsors, especially picking sessions. That's a whole different deal. Exhibitor reps, same thing. So I'm going to stick with just general admission can see this during the registration process. Everybody else, when they finish submitting their attendee info page, they'll skip. They won't even know that there was a session page. They'll just skip an agenda and go right on to whatever the next page is for them, probably the payment page. Okay? Visibility by user type. What does this mean? Public users are the general audience. So whoever is coming to your site from the event URL is the public user. The admin user is you. Are there certain sessions that only you want to see for admin purposes? Perhaps you want to have some hidden sessions so that you're the one that determines who can sign up for them. Okay? Visibility by new or modifying. So the system does keep track if this person is a first-time registrant or are they returning to their registration through the modify links. Now, this depends if you have enabled modify permissions back on registrant rules, which we covered in Event Builder 2. If you are allowing people to modify, you can control what they see. So perhaps you're requiring people to return to their original registrations for some reason. We just recently had a use case for this, as a matter of fact. So people would come in and sort of apply for the event. And once they were accepted, they were requested to go back to their original registrations to pay a fee. And this is how the coordinator handled that. By deciding which questions would be seen when they're new, first in the system, and which questions they would see when they return as a modifying registrant. Another way to control the primary registrant or the additional registrant. The primary registrant is the first person in a group booking situation who is submitting their registration, and everyone they add to that registration is an additional registrant. So we do have group booking turned on with this site, and another way we control whether or not they see these sessions. Now, what's unique to sessions is this visibility option, visibility by a question. If you'd like to use this, just simply turn it on. It's turned off by default, and pick your question. And your question on the attendee info page has to have pre-selected options. So let's just pick an easy one. Are you alumni? Yes, no. right? So if someone said, yes, they're alumni, they come to maybe just seeing sessions that are specifically for alumni. And if they're not alumni, then they wouldn't see it, okay? And you have the choice on picking multiple questions here, picking multiple answers, and if they answer all the questions, you're restricting it very tightly. It's just if they've answered all the questions a specific way, or are you showing sessions based on any of the things you select down here? Again, not using that for my event, but that's pretty neat. Now we're seeing some advanced settings. Do I want to display this on the payment and confirmation page? Again, that's just a coordinator decision. And down here, the session details, remember I said there's a more info link. When you add the session description, that's a pop-up. You can control the size of the pop-up here. You can also decide, maybe I want that description to always display, not just require people to hit a more info link. If that's the thing I want to do, I just uncheck this, and it will default for this question that it's always going to display the description. Okay? And finally, just a notes for anything internal I want to make a note of here for my staff or anyone else who's an admin to come in and ask anything I want to put down here for notes. So this is very basic, and we'll be going into some of the details for some of these others. I'm just going to hit save and exit. And now I have my first session. So I can click add session again to add my next one, or I can simply clone it. Since I'm using visibility settings that I want to use throughout, I can simply clone this as my starting point and make my next one. My next one, though, is going to be using the single session checkbox, and some of my options are going to change. Let us change the time. So it starts at the end of check-in and goes until 10:30. I still have a session heading option if I want to use that. Let's change this to our welcome. Oop. And our keynote. Okay, so what is new here? Well, now we have a capacity and waitlist option added to the session profile because I've got a checkbox. I can limit how many people can select this option. If I have a room limitation, I can enter that here so I don't go over capacity. And let's see here. I think we've got some new things here. Actually, we're seeing some new options here, and this is something that Stova does for us at times, and it surprises us when we haven't seen it before. Anyway, you can put a maximum attendee here. Normally, there is a field that just automatically says once you reach that, what's the thing you're showing. Let's keep going. Show the number of remaining seats. So maybe you want to get a little excitement that seats are going fast. It'll count down seats, and person can see how many are left. So what's this new thing? Options for when the session reaches capacity. Oh, interesting. Okay. So you can just display a sold out message. This is what was done by default. Just a term ago, we didn't even have these options. So yes, every time there is a field that basically closes a part of Stova, there's going to be some sort of action for you to do. One of them is just to display a message. This session is sold out. Sorry. What's the new one here? Remove the session from the registrant visibility. Oh, handy. So perhaps you just want that session to disappear off the list of options. Okay, I can see a use for that. And another option would be to enable a wait list for this session. So once you reach that capacity, people can opt to be added to a wait list for that session. Now, a word on this waitlist option. It was in Event Builder 1. We talked about the event and category level waitlist. And as that implies, that's what it's limited to. It's a system that can be automatically sending emails to people when seats are open for the event, or for the category and allowing people to register for those. This isn't that kind of system. Uh, this is just giving you a list of people who are on the wait list, and it's up to you, totally manually, to worry about getting people in this session from the wait list or moving them from the wait list to the session. Um, how you handle that's totally up to you. We will be showing you some reports. There are some reports for handling waitlisting in sessions, but I like to call this just a butts in seat feature. Some people really worry about getting people from a session waitlist into the session. Um, that's up to them. Something that can happen, I don't know how often it does happen, but what can happen is if you enabled waitlist and somebody cancels their registration and a seat opens up, the next person registering could jump the line, in a manner of speaking, and take that open seat. There's no way to prevent that. So that's why I'm saying kind of this is just a butts in seat. This is just to help you fill a session if you have high demand. Okay, keeping track for you. So maybe waiting until a day or so before the event if it's high interest and you're starting to see some open seats where you can move people from waitlist to the session. Yeah, that is up to you. Go. Interesting two features there. Okay, we already know about the visibility settings. There's my clone setting. That's still good there. And now we have the option of a conditional question. So conditional questions are a follow-up question. They select this session. Is there something I need to ask them about attending? What might that be? Well, the only use case I can think of at the top of my head is back on, was it Event Builder 2? We were talking about attendee info where we created a dietary restrictions question. If I wanted to ask people, are you coming to the luncheon as a session, I could follow up here with the question on what is your dietary restrictions, or maybe I just want to give them the menu and say, which of these do you select? And that's what we'll order for you. Okay, and that's one use case for a conditional question. Link sessions. If you have a situation where you have a series of sessions and you want a person who signs up for one to be signed up for them all in the series, you can use this feature to link them together so that no matter where they are in the agenda when they're selecting, they select that one, the whole series is. Like, what's a use case? Well, perhaps you have a series of executive committee meetings and you don't want people to think that they just have to sign up for one, they have to attend them all. So you would link all the executive sessions together. They select one, they're all going to be added to their session selections. Okay? To use it, just turn it on and then go and search for those other sessions. I don't have any programmed yet, so except for, does it see the check-in? No, because that's not, it has to be a session that can be selected. And I only have a heading no input. But you would find it and then select it, and it would be linked down here, the full list. You only have to do this in one of the sessions of the series, and they'll all be linked. Okay. Now some more advanced settings here when we start having the option of selecting. One is a merge code. So we do have some merge codes built into the system for providing the attendee with a list of all the sessions they've selected. That's a merge field that exists that you can put inside like a confirmation email or a secondary confirmation to display. If for some reason you need to sort of pull out a session to highlight it in an email and it's the session alone, then you would need to designate a custom merge field for it that you can then use in those communications. We talked about custom merge fields under attendee info, and we're using the same system here. So if I click on here, I use custom 1 and custom 2 back in attendee info. There are like 150 custom codes available for your use throughout the system. If I wanted to use this, I would just select the next one, and that would reserve it for this session and for my use for this session. Okay, that is what the merge code feature is here. Is this session checked by default when they come? That's an option. And again, the session details are also available here. and the session block list. So we talked on when we did registrant rules that there are event level blocks. If there are people who should not be registering for your event, there's a way to prevent them from doing that. There's also a way to do it sort of micromanage wise. If there are people who shouldn't be coming to certain events, you can block them by adding new and listing by what? By their names, by their email domain. Okay, I'm not going to use that. Is there a way to go back? Okay, there's a way to go back. But you do have that option. As always, use this power for good. All right, so that's it for this session. Lovely. Let's do one more manually. Again, I'm going to clone this. And we will now be using our first breakout session. Same date, but new time. This one's going to start 10:45 and go until noon. Not using session heading. And since I've picked multi-selection, whatever I had in the clone as one session has now been added as the first of my multi-session. So let me just change this to what it really is. And I'm just going to hit save and stay before I move on. And these options of formatting are going to affect everything I add here. So I can click the add session. And notice that just like I had a session under a single checkbox, I have the same options here for this breakout session. Capacity limits, more limited visibilities. Can I still link it? Still are available here. Save and exit. Going to add 2 more. I'm not a fast typer. I just have a little utility that allows me to create shortcuts for pre-populating. Okay. Let's go in the middle of some of these. Now, if I need to edit anything in here, the capacity limits, the visibility settings, I can do that by going to the edit feature. And I'm going to go right back into it. Notice you can do a little formatting. So perhaps you want to do some columns formatting of the display on the registration site. You have that as a new option now when you do multis. I can select session types. I can also go through the list with these buttons. If I make any changes here and click previous session or next session, it will save my changes and then advance to the previous or to the next session. Okay, anything else special here? No. So let's get out of this. All right. Let's take a pause here and see what this actually looks like. I'm going to go to my preview event and jump to my select agenda for this. So here where it's what a heading no input looks like. It's all automatically been placed into whatever the date is I have selected for all these sessions. So even though I individually put in the date, it's going to display under one banner for that date. So that's the checkbox there, and the radio buttons. I can only pick one, and if I really decide, I don't want to go to any of those, I can clear. I didn't add a session description to any of these. Okay, so far looking pretty good. Now, you can continue to add sessions onesie Tuesday like this, or you do have the option of adding sessions through a spreadsheet, if that is easier for you. One note is if you are cloning a Stova registration that already has sessions programmed into it, those sessions will be cloned as well, and there'll be an opportunity for you to just update the dates for your new event, and then later edit names and details. But if you're doing the same event every year or however, on a regular basis and the time slots stay the same, that can be handy. But to get them in the first time, perhaps a spreadsheet is easier for you. Here's how you do it, and it's a little tricky. Click the import export options, and the first thing you'd want to do is to export the template. And this template should be used when you're doing an import so you get the proper formatting. Oh, it did jump right into this one. Great. Go back here. And where did the downloads go? Boom, boom. And then, yeah, now it jumps to the other one. All right. And this is how it comes out. Let's see if I can get this a little tighter so I get more information on the screen. All right. So it has exported these fields from my session profiles. A couple of things I want to note here. Be aware that if you've exported this, it's going to export the any sessions that have already been created, and they're going to have a system ID inside these. If you want, you can edit things like the name and any of these other fields, and then when you re-import, those fields will be updated. However, do not mess with these system ID numbers that have already been programmed. That will confuse the system. If you add new sessions to this, these will be blank, and that's how the system knows these are new sessions, and they will be created for you. The other thing I want to point out are type and session number. These have specific uses. So if you're using this import, I'm going to go back to the import instructions. Follow these instructions very carefully. Okay, these are the important things to keep in mind. Number one, this is how the system wants the dates to be formatted. If I go back to that, back to this is what they gave us. That's not the format they gave us, so you will need to modify this spreadsheet so it gives you, or you give the system, the dates in the format they're showing you here. Same thing with start time. Make sure you're using, looks like it's the 24-hour clock method, regardless of how you have programmed it for your event. That's just how it's keeping track of your sessions. Okay, now type and session number, this is where it gets really tricky. So a single session no input is a type 3. A single session checkbox is a type 2. And a multi-session radio button is a type 1, and for each session of that multi. The system works in combination with the session number. This is not a random number. This is not where you would say, oh, I'm doing 15 sessions. I'm going to number these 1 through 15. No. Don't. That will not work. This is telling the system how many sessions are in these different types and the order of those sessions within that type. So for single session no input 3 and single session checkbox 2, it's always a 1. You've only got one session. Okay, gets tricky in the multi because there you might have a 1, 2, 3, or however many sessions you have. So restrict the number here to how many sessions are in that multi when you are importing. Okay, very important to follow these instructions. If you don't follow these instructions and try to import, you won't get the results you expect, and you might not see anything if the coding is not correct. So I think there is a way now to mass delete sessions that didn't used to be a thing, but yeah, talking from experience here, how now this can be a little tricky. Let's go back. And so when you do have your spreadsheet ready and you've got them formatted in the proper way here, then you can upload it. Now I do have a file ready to go. And Event Builder 3 sessions. And click the upload button when you're ready. Give it a little time because the system is going to be grinding through these a bit. Oh, okay, I had no new sessions in the spreadsheet. I do have, or no updated sessions, I should say. I do have 25 created. Lovely. I'm good to go. Now, oh, this is an old spreadsheet where the dates were from a previous event. These are not for my current conference. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to mass update all of these dates? Well, there is. First, I need to hit save and stay. Once I do, and the session realizes, oh, you got a lot of sessions now, and they're on different dates. Yeah, now what appears is this date adjustment tool. I click on that. This is also what you will see first thing when you clone an event that has sessions, is it will automatically take you to this date or to this page to say, do you want to update these dates? And let's see, this is, again, 2026. I'm doing these are the after noon sessions, are they not? Yeah. So there's that. Day 2. Sometimes I do them in May, sometimes I do them in June. There should be, oh, that's it. Oh, but that's not right. That's 50, yeah, 16, that's what 13, 14, yeah, okay, duh. Lost my train of thought there for a second because I was interrupted. Yeah, that's it. Save and stay. Everything should be in order. I can go back to session list. And now, did that say it one at a time? Now everything's not quite in display order yet. And I will find if I go to the bottom of the screen, if things are out of order, I can take, oh, there, okay, I think I screwed up with, yeah, I did screw up with my dates on registration and check-in. Yeah, somehow they got mixed up. Yeah, happens. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. So if things do get out of order, you don't have to manually move things around, although you can, like other parts of Stova, when you see these dotted lines, if you want to manually arrange how these display, you can do that. I just wanted to be in date time order. Boom, there we are. That's what I'm looking for. Now, some notes about the import. So I've got the data into these sessions, but some things that did not come over. There's no way I can control formatting. So I like to put my session bold facing here. I cannot do that within a spreadsheet. I'm going to have to go through and do that manually. There might be some, the visibility settings also will not come over automatically. I'll have to go in and manually check things. So about 70% can be imported this way through a spreadsheet into sessions. Okay. All right. Took care of that, took care of that, took care of that. So that's with sessions. I mentioned that there are ways to have restrictions. Now that I have sessions programmed in here, now I will have a section down here for those restrictions. And I can restrict how people register or what sessions I can register for globally based on categories or those session types. Okay, so I can either set a minimum or I can set a maximum. Well, why would I set a minimum? Well, actually, we did have a use case where a person was offering a tour series, and people would come in, they'd register, they'd get to the agenda, and they would not select any sessions, and they would just finish the registration. So this person needed a way to require people to select at least one session before they completed the registration. That's why they set it for a 1. But the other use case is perhaps you're offering a number of workshops, sessions, and you want to limit how many a person can sign up for. That's what the maximum would do. So you can set the restriction on, again, categories or on those things called session types. If I didn't say it earlier, session types, which is listed here, are programmed on the account level. We've created a long list here, which we hope are useful for you. But if you need something specific for a session type for your purposes, just let us know and we're happy to add that to the list. So I don't know that this is a session type is a display option that I don't remember off the top of my head. So you could use basically anything if there's not displayed for designating the different sessions for this restriction. Okay, now next tab is the Contents tab, another way of filtering or formatting your sessions for your attendees. I didn't cover it in the session because I didn't have anything programmed. So now we're going to show you a use case for using content tags. First, you need to name what the group is. And so I'm going to create a content tag to designate my sessions and what level of experience the session is aimed for, either a beginner or an intermediate user or an advanced. After I've created the name, I hit save. It's going to keep me here. I don't want to hit save and exit yet because now I need to add those specific tags. I've got no tags within there yet, so let's add one, and I'm going to need 3. And I can do this onesie twosie as I'm doing here. Right? Or if I have a list, I just want to copy and paste, I can do that using the import multiple tags section. Let me actually hit save and save my work and show you what that looks like. Oh, okay. So you can import it by an Excel spreadsheet. So your list is in the spreadsheet. Again, do the download, follow the instructions here on how they want things, and then upload. Whatever's easier for you. This was easier for me. Now, when I leave, here are my here's my content field name, and it shows 3 tags. And hierarchy-wise, if I worried about a hierarchy of these tags, here is how they display, and I can adjust these if I want. This works for me. I go back to my sessions, and let's go into one. Creating an event is definitely a beginner level experience. Okay, let's see, does that check them all? Yes, that one checks them all. So onesie twosie. Here I can check more than one if I like. Next session. Call reporting, advanced, intermediate. You get the idea. Okay, now this can be used in Website Builder as a way of filtering, or that the person who lands on the website can filter based on these content tags, sort of like tracking on steroids. Okay. All right. Now we had a section for speakers in the sessions, and there was no way to select speakers because we haven't added any. So let's do that now. We go to the Speakers tab, and once again, we can choose between importing or just adding speaker manually. We'll start by adding them manually. An explanation of some of these fields. Template merge fields are a fairly new feature where you can use the information that you enter here for a speaker and use them in the marketing module. So if you want to highlight speakers that are in this event, you create an email in the marketing module, link it to the event, and then you're able to pull this information over. The only thing you have to do is inside the speaker that you want to pull over. Here you have to select which speaker they are up to 10. And that's how you're able to figure out who's who when you're on the email section. I'm not going to demonstrate this, just let you know what it means. Load from the database. So if you are using this speaker in multiple events, you have the option of adding them to the account level database of speakers so that in your next event, you don't have to enter all this information again. You can simply click on this list and select the person from this list, and it will be populated. Now, I will let you know that we do clear these out about once a year or so. Just FYI. Okay. Otherwise, you just enter your speaker's name, and none of these are required fields available to you, and again can display in the speaker profile of the session. But any of this, prefix, first name, last name, suffix, email, the title, a company, even pull an image, and that can be used on their profile. It can also be used if you are buying the mobile app option for your event. That can be used to display their picture there. The description field, I believe this is for the websites module, and the bio will display in their own little pop-up. Now, just like we had one for sessions, we also have it for speakers. And it goes over there. I probably did that last time. It's huge. Hang on a sec while I resize this. There. So this is what shows up by default. Title with a merge field, company with a merge field, bio with a merge field. Their name is probably up here as a merge field as well. And to control that or edit that, edit speaker layout. Oh yeah, look at all these merge codes that are being pulled in to display. For that, you can edit this as much as possible. If you edit that here, you can clone the speaker to create the next speaker, and that'll keep that formatting as we discussed earlier. And this is one way to add a speaker to a particular session. I think I better save my work here before I get it. So this is one way to add them to a session from within here. Here's the entire agenda. Let's say I'm going to be doing booths, and now they've been added to my profile. I know this is used for a way, I think you can filter on the website module based on the speakers. So if you want to see, you want to attend everything by this particular guy who I know is pretty good, you can select them in your agenda. In the mobile app, there's a way to see the speaker profile and see all the sessions that they are presenting at as well. Again, that's one way. Another way of adding, so again, speakers, I can hit copy and start cloning this for any formatting I've created and want to keep that formatting. Lovely. If I have designated someone as speaker 1, speaker 2, it will show up in this field, in this column, that I've done that. Another way to add speakers is from a spreadsheet. Pretty simple. I won't download the selection here because I already have one ready to go. And since I see it popped up here, I don't think that gives you a message. So I'm just going to close that, and there are all my new speakers. Now that I've added them here, I can also add them the other way, which is to go back to Agenda Sessions, select my session, and now under the Speakers section, now I've got a button and a way to add these folks, and there are a couple of different ways. I can search for them by name. Or I can get the full list of people by clicking this link, and then I see all the speakers in this, and I can go and add multiples to this session. Okay, lovely. If things change, I can go right into the speaker's profile by editing here, or I can just delete this person from this session. Okay. Now, just like we have speakers, we also have a way to tell people where these rooms are located using the Locations tab. Pretty basic for adding locations, and this is not a place where you can upload your list of rooms by a spreadsheet. I don't know why. But let me just add a couple here. Maximum occupancy is just for your information to keep track of things. It doesn't have any function here. And again, a way for you to have internal notes. Fine, let me just quickly add a couple of rooms here, which I plan to use in other parts of the demonstration. Which you can see how quickly you can add them. All right, good selection here. Now that I have some rooms, something's happened back at the sessions. Now I can see a session location field. This wasn't here before, and then this is one of those Stova things where until you add some data, you might not see a feature. Okay, so now that I've added locations, now I've got the list, and we'll do check-in the Arizona ballroom, and we'll do the keynote in the Arizona ballroom, right? And so this will display in my sessions, or I can put it in the session description. Again, this can also be used in the mobile app where we have a feature called floor plan. You can put a graphic of the venue's floor, and then put pinpoints for these different locations to help people navigate your venue. Okay. And then the last thing under agenda and options is the options merchandise. And I'm going to use this exactly as it's described here for merchandise. I had no spreadsheets. It's all single adding here, and here are the different types that you can use under merchandise and options. Of course, you always have a heading, no input. If you want to put some explanation text here or some helper text here or a header or something graphically for your attendees, you can. You can also have the single checkbox yes, no option. No is blank, checked as yes. You can add a multi-select radio button option, or if you're selling quantities of something, we have the open-ended option, then that's what that field is for. So I'm going to use the radio buttons, and I have a header. I'm going to sell t-shirts. And it's an HTML field. I can go in here and I can format this. I can also add, a pretty long description of what I'm selling here. Maybe I want to put a graphic of what the t-shirt looks like. Again, a way to have a short name from a reporting. If I had a really long heading here, I can have a short name display, something that's just code to me. Let's start off with the sizes. People are going to be able to pick one t-shirt and one size. It gives me one option by default, and now I'm adding more options. And each of these options, you're seeing what you can do with these options. Again, an internal reference field. Name for a badge. So if I want to put on the badge that what the t-shirt size is so when they go up to the merchandise table, people can say right away, oh, I see you need a large. I can do that. Again, a description if I need to tell people what these options are for what I'm selling. And now you also have maximum registrants. How many of these, do I have a limited inventory and I want to put in here so I don't go over that? I can do that. And again, in Stova, anywhere you have something that gives you a limit, you're going to have another field when you're sold out. So you can say I'm sold out or what to do in that case. I also have the option to show a number that's dwindling inventory, you know, this number subtracting however many people have registered or selected this option. Make this option invisible. Maybe I just want this to be something the admins use and can't be seen by registrants. That's an option too. One more, size. All right. And again, I have visibility settings. Maybe I want only the general admission to see this. Nobody else gets these t-shirts. Works for me. Again, visibility types we talked about before, by user type, by new or modifying, by primary. And if we can ask a follow-up to one of these options. A way to control that pop-up, and also a way to add a merge code for this. Options of merchandise it's not a system merge code that you can use. If you do want to display these options, you would need to use a custom merge code. Okay. So that's just one. Let's add, what does that quantity field look like? Because it offers you some extra options. This one will be for the Expo guide. Option reference, again, is just internal name for badge and description we talked about. So now we can go, when we're talking quantities, here could be your full inventory maximum that you don't want to go over. And are you going to limit how many a person can buy? Okay. And you can show how many are remaining of that option. And the option of, do you want to use this for whole numbers? So I can't sell half a t-shirt. Okay, but there can be use cases where you are allowing a fraction. Again, I'm just going to do that for general admission. No conditional questions. Save and exit. Okay, what does these look like? I'm going to give our screen a refresh. How are we doing here? If I go to select agenda, now there is my full conference starting to take shape. So some of the ones I imported did have descriptions. There's the more info we were talking about. And if we go to the options page, there are my t-shirts. Again, radio button and Expo guide. So if I say I want half a t-shirt, not going to happen. Okay. Now, one note is there was not an options page on this preview until I added data to it. Okay, if we were here before I had done that, you wouldn't even see this. And that's, again, a Stova thing. Until there's data, some features do not appear. And I can go to, I don't think I'll see anything for exhibitors. I won't see any of those fields for exhibitors because they don't get to see any options. They don't get to see the agenda. Or did I allow them to? Oh, these are those imported ones. So I haven't set the visibility settings for these yet. Okay? All right. All right, I'm just checking for questions here before I move on to the fun stuff of taking the money. I don't see anything in the chat. So let's move on to fees and payments. I'm going to start by selecting the payment methods, the way I'm going to accept the money. And the most common way to accept payments are for credit cards. I select payment methods, add a payment method, and it defaults to check. But here is my list of options. Now, the second one is credit card. Do not use this option. This doesn't work at ASU. At ASU, to accept credit card payments, you have to use a quick pay account. If you have one, great. If you don't, you need to request one from ASU Merchant Services, and there's a ServiceNow form that we will direct you to. It can take some little time, couple of weeks, to have that new quick pay account created. That's the banks, not ASU. So just be aware of that in your planning, as if you are going to be accepting fees and it's the first time you've done it for this event or for your department, put that request in for a quick pay account as early as you can so it can be set up when you need it. Okay, so I'm going to select quick pay. And this is what I'm talking about. Once that quick pay account is created for you within the system, it will be listed here. And you just have to select one. I know I've got one for us. Okay. Unfortunately, this list is not alpha sorted. It is sorted by when the account was added to our system. So if you're brand new, it's going to be at the bottom of the list, just FYI. Okay. Other options for you are to display information when this is selected on the payment page. That's up to you. One thing for quick pay, though, you have these billing fields that display. You need to turn these off for quick pay. So the way quick pay works is your registrant will go through the process and at some point hit the payment page and say, make payment. And at that point, they are transferred from Stova, which is not recording any banking information, no credit card information at all. They're transferred from Stova to QuickPay, and that's where they enter the billing information and the credit card information and finish that part of the transaction. And when that is finished, QuickPay sends them back to Stova, tells Stova they're paid, they're good, and they'll land on the congratulations, you're registered page of Stova. So that's how that works. So what we found with these fields is that it's really a courtesy feature here, where in some systems you can have people fill out the billing information during registration and then get them sent to have that processed in another place, and that information is transferred. We have found with QuickPay, it just can cause errors in the system, especially if you're accepting payment from out of country folks. So our recommendation is this is just for convenience. Just turn it off. It just gets in the way. Okay. You also have the ability to have some visibility settings for which payment systems people can use based on whether they're public or is this something just for you, or can different categories pay in different ways. Maybe your general admission is going to pay by credit card, but you're allowing your vendors to be charged by invoice, and they're going to pay you some other way later. Okay, there's a use case for you. I'm going to hit save and exit. And there's my first one. Now, a note about this. When you are testing the system, you will not be able to bypass the payment page when you have QuickPay enabled, and it's the only method available. Our recommendation is to add one more payment method that's not credit card based, so that during testing, you can use it to finish the registration process and watch the flow. Okay, and what I do is usually add the invoice option. And I don't really need to see this, but I could, because maybe I do want to offer that invoice option to some of my clients. Again, that's on me, but just for me for testing, I don't need to see that. I don't have all those categories and other visibility options. Lovely. Then after my testing is over, I will come back here and I will actually just turn off public so it's not visible to my registrants during the registration process, but I'll keep it handy for me in case I hit that situation where I have a sponsor or an exhibitor that I'm collecting payments through the system, through the registration site, And maybe they're asking for an invoice. Okay, I've got it open for me. I'll generate one for you. Okay. What's also available here on the payment settings are currencies, and these are for display only. You cannot set the default currency that your fees are paid in. That's always going to be US dollars. But if you want to show people what the currency in their country could be, it's the euro or something like that, you can display other currencies here simply by adding a currency, selecting it, and the system can actually automatically do the exchange rates as well. Another feature of the payment settings is down here. There are fields that you can add data or information for these different sections that can display on the payment page. I usually like to put a little helper text when I'm using QuickPay. I like to put this little information that's Velvet Glove. I tell them, because they're going to see QuickPay and they're going to go, what's that? That's not saying credit card. They don't know that QuickPay is a credit card, so I'm going to tell them. And I'm also going to give them an idea that this is what's going to happen when they submit payment. Okay, this text is available on our website on the page on how to set up QuickPay. So I'm going to do that. Before I leave this page, I'm going to hit save and stay. Okay, so my payment methods are complete. Let's go set prices. We do that under standard fees. And at the bottom here is where I've got fields for adding prices. Okay, I'm going to go with full price first. And exhibitors actually have to pay. The reps do not. Staff is comped, so they're blank. And I'm not going to set a price for sponsors. I'm just going to set them for the sponsorship levels. And that. Now, in this situation, when I have a category that has subcategories like this, if I was to put a number in this, it would become cumulative. So it would be this on top of whatever I've entered down here. Okay, so it does add up. So that's why I keep it simple, straight pricing here. I'm going to save and stay before I go on. Now, these are the things I can put prices on. I can put them on categories. That's what it says by default. I can add them to sessions, and I can add them to my options merchandise. Or if I want to see everything I can put money or can put a price on, I can hit the everything button. Okay, we'll go into sessions and options here in a minute. But what I wanted to talk about next was the first discount I can offer people based on time. And so I'm going to use this for my early bird special, and to do that you set a price point. Price point is simply the date when the price changes. This is happening this year, so let's say it's just going to be April Fools. I could hit save now, and if I did without a time in here, it means midnight of April 1st. Let's just say 5 o'clock p.m. into business, Arizona time. Okay, and then I have to save this. And when I do, now I have a new column where I can enter the price. So before that date and time, what is the price? So think about anything that where the price changes based on a date. I'm using this for early bird special. But if you had a late fee, then you would have a date when the price goes up to what would be called full price versus standard price. Okay, so I'm just giving the attendees and the exhibitors a deal. If they enter early, nobody else. Lovely. Okay. Now I have some sessions that if people select them, I want to charge them a fee for that. So I'm going to go over to sessions. And a couple of things about sessions is that, as you can see, I still got the same two columns, one for the early bird, one for what would be called full price or the most expensive price, right? But over here, I also have an option of pricing things based on categories. I just simply click that box and it opens up. So if I wanted to get this granular in charging people for a session, I can do that. based on category. I don't. I just want them to pay me if they're going to trip to Top Golf. There will be, actually, it's $50. No early bird. Lovely. And now under options, what's the price for t-shirts? I don't have to go. Well, I do have to go. And Expo books are $5. No early birds on those as well. Okay, great. I've got my pricing all set, and I've got my first discount for early birds taken care of. Okay, now what about other discounts? Can I program them for just discounts I want to give to certain individuals or groups? Yes, you can do that. That is under discount codes. And to add a code, click the add code button. Call it what you will. This is what will be used for the code, and a place for internal notes here. And some other options allow attendees to skip pre-approved or preloaded data requirements. That's a feature we haven't talked about yet. Allow attendee to register tax-free. If they're coming to ASU, we don't usually worry about taxes. Yes, they have the ability to have a direct link that you can give people to get them right into registration with this code. Lovely. And now what is required next, though, before I hit save, what type of discount is this? Is this a specific price for each item? So much off for whatever I'm allowing them to get a discount on. Is it a percentage discount, 10% off? Or is it a fixed discount? Let's look at each one of these. So here, if I hit the assign specific prices, actually it's not a number off. It's just saying the price changes. The price changes if you use this discount code. It's not necessarily a number off. I can put anything I want to here. For those, there are the sessions, long list of sessions, and then the agenda items. Okay. The percentage, it's just going to give me a simple field. And then I decide what do I want that to be a discount of in my session. Same thing with the fixed discount. So fixed is where if you want to give somebody $10 off or $5 off, that would be a fixed discount versus a percentage discount. I'm going to give people a percentage just on the category. And then you have some, who is this available for? If you left these things blank, anyone can use this code, but you can limit how many times it can be used. You can limit when it's available. When does the discount start? When does the discount end? Or do you have to have so many people register in your group before you get it to be applied? Or is it applied to one person in so many people of the group? Lots of options here for discount codes. And again, availability based on things like similar to visibility, categories, public users versus admin users. And since there are ways to limit its use, what's the message when that code can no longer be used? And since we do have group bookings on, you can decide, can they pick any code or it has to be entered in the field. You can also add alternative codes. I'm not going to go into that because I can see how much time I have left. I'm going to hit save and exit. And as soon as I've done that, a couple of things have happened besides the discount code being made. Now I have a new field displaying on my new registration page, and it's this, the ID code. Once you create a discount code, you're going to automatically get this, and the discount code needs to be applied on the new registration page. Otherwise, the system, it can't be displayed or can't be used. Once they get into the system, they have to sort of hand it at the door of registration. Now, ID code is the system term for this. There is a way to adjust this. I'll see if I have time to show you how to do that. Otherwise, come back to Event Builder 4 where we will talk about this. So if time, I'll show you how to make that a more common name or something I think you'll like better. So that's happened, and that will always display. That field will always display. So if you're trying to keep the code quiet from people, this is one of the reasons I don't like using discount codes. I like to use the categories instead and early bird specials. People are going to, this is a giveaway that you're giving a discount to some folks and not to others. Okay. Unless you're going to, well, even if you use the direct links, this will always display. Ah, well. All right. Going through here a little quickly because I can see I'm running out of time. Another option for discounts is something called discount rules. So I'm not going to demonstrate these, but if you had a situation where if a group registered 10 and then they get a discount, this is how you can create rules based on groups or that kind of scenario. You have to create discount code under discount code to be able to use it under discount rules. But if you're doing that kind of scenario, this is how you can manage it. Okay. We've already talked about payment settings. Tax settings, at ASU, we really don't need to worry about that. We do talk about invoices. So there is an invoice by default in the system and a design of it. I don't have an example of it open at the moment, but you can also customize and create your own invoice by coming to this tab and going to Invoice Designer. Check that, and then you have to hit Save and Stay before you launch the Invoice Designer. Now we're good. Now I can click this. And this is the close to the default and similar to the badging system, if you've ever encountered that. This is how you can create your own look and feel. The invoice settings talk about the paper size. It defaults to A4 European standard. This is telling you this height. So if you need more real estate down in the body, this is how you make adjustments. Really, it's telling you how much the header is and how much the footer is, and you adjust those, the body will automatically change. And if you're doing a multi-page invoice, you can have it page numbered. To add fields or to add graphics, hit the Add Content to Invoice button. Okay, and these are all the different things that you can add. You can add your own logo or image. You can pull a person's information from the registration site. You can get that item breakdown on what it is you're charging them for. That is displayed by default in the invoice body. Policies and terms. Remember, we had under payment settings the different fields that we could populate. Here's where you can again use that information. Custom text, of course, if you just need to put a header, or perhaps you don't get field labels when you pull in event, personal, and billing information. So maybe you want to make a text box that includes what those field labels are, and then make a different text box for the event, personal, or billing information. Category selections, session selections, all that kind of thing you can put in here, grand totals. Let's just add something here. So let's say we want to add, do we have full name? Billing information and event name information. Well, let's say we want to put our event name, make it bold, add something simple here. Okay, it's added that here for us, and it gives us all these little toolbars so we can adjust the formatting if I need to do some editing to it. Doesn't look like I've got a lot of formatting to do here. Oh, font size. Let's make that big. That's what I was looking for. All right, so just line that up with the name. We'll call that good and hit save and stay before I go on to the next one. Let's add some multis. So now let's get the person who ordered this first name and their last name. Now, is there a new line after first name? No. I want there to be a line after last name, add their company. Do a little editing. But not go too crazy here. Hit save. And let's say I want to put that there, give it plenty of room. Anyway, you get the idea. So if I wanted to, oh, it didn't do it the way I thought. Did I not say that right? Let's see if that's right. Yeah, there we go. So if I wanted to create field labels where I said, name and company, I would go in and use a custom text field for that and have a text box right next to it. This is the itemized list. It's going a little over. I'm going to correct that. And this is by default is showing our cancellation policy and payment instructions. Anyway, you'll probably want to add your unit logo, maybe your contact information here, and that will be the invoice that this then sends people, sends to people when they request it, or if you are enabling that feature. In fact, with that in mind, I don't have anybody in the registrant list to be able to show you this. So once you start getting people in the registrant list and you open up an attendee profile, there is a way for you to generate an invoice from that attendee profile. Also, there is a merge code that you can add to your emails that I can show you, and that'll be our last demo, I think, of today, and open it up for questions after that. So what I like to do when I have a paid event is I like to make a copy of the confirmation email. Well, first what I like to do is I like to add that merge code for an invoice. And to find that merge code, I click that button to open up this, and then let's see, I like to get the invoice with the button. But if I wanted to, I could use the HTML link behind some text, or the URL behind some text, and paste that there, and save it. But what I also like to do, and this is a pro tip for a paid event, is a lot of time people will forget that you've got an invoice button inside the confirmation email. So I like to clone this and make it a secondary confirmation and just tell people this is the invoice for this event. Get rid of everything else, perhaps, except that, because if they start scanning their email inbox for where's that invoice, that'll capture their attention probably more quickly than remembering it's in the confirmation email. All right, I'm checking my outline here to see if there's anything else that you really need to know about. I think that's it for now. I would suggest that you go to our upcoming webinar on event reports, where we'll talk about some of the reports you can use for transactions and more details than I can provide in this webinar. But let me open this up to questions that you may have about agenda sessions, or about accepting payments, or setting up the fees and payments section before we run out of time. see nothing in the chat, I'll just go to our support page. So again, if you do have questions after you've watched this video or after leaving today, lots of different ways to get your questions answered. You can drop them in our Slack channel, and other ASU users of Stova help answer your questions. You can go to our support website. Like I say, we've got lots of support docs. How to set up your QuickPay account, how to request a QuickPay account, for example. Or you can just send your question by email. You can go to our YouTube channel where other webinars like this are displayed for your viewing pleasure. We also have some other upcoming webinars. Again, next week we're doing the next episode of Event Builder 4. We're talking about theme editor and some of the advanced settings available in a registration. And you can come to office hours every Tuesday from 1:30 to 2:30, where it's just an open forum for asking questions. Everyone's invited. We post the reminder and the link to the office hours in Slack. And if you have questions outside of office hours, Laura and I are not available outside of office hours, but Stova is. And you can send them an email or go into your user account under the support feature to go into their support docs, check their chat feature with support, or give them a phone call, however you prefer to ask your questions. So, well, thank you all for coming. And again, at the after Zoom has done its processing or we've done other editing, we will share the recording of this video with you via email. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day. Bye now.